So that's why you see that Bohemoth, he want to have all the women because, you know, they want to keep women in the Jezebel spirit. So that's why they got the travel nurses, which I'm going to get into all of this right quick, the traveling nurse. And then it's always the same scenario. You'll see the travel nurses in the clubs, drinking, etc., partying, doing explicit videos, OnlyFans, etc. You know what I'm saying? It's all the Jezebel spirit, because when you understand how this all works, same with the flight attendant. You know, it got to be the same thing. You had a sodomite man, you had the Jezebel woman. You see what I mean? So I'm going to get into this right quick, because when you understand all of that, it goes into that Jezebel spirit wanting to float above the altar. Remove the headstone in Psalms 118:22, as it's written, the builders remove the headstone, which represents Christ. You see what I'm saying? They want to have that all-seeing eye. They want to float above the altar. They want to be the ones in ego, full of pride. You know, instead of being a part of the Exodus, they rather be the traveling nurses, you know, who take the oath with Lucifer, with the Bohemoth, the Hippocratic oath, which I'm about to get into in a minute. You know what I'm saying? It's all connected. And then they be the most promiscuous women, because that's the whole thing. They get filled up with the Jezebel spirit. Same with the flight attendants. Because they so full of ego and pride, they floating above the altar. That's the oath that they make. That's how the devil got it set up. You know, at least to seduce real women into, you know, becoming like that, because they had sorority agents who would seduce real women who just might want to heal people for real, who want to be a doctor, who want to help people, you know. But that's how the devil works. You see what I'm saying? So it goes into 2 Kings, when Jezebel got cast out the window, 2 Kings 9:30. Now when Jehu had come to Jezreel, which I get into Jezreel, it goes into nothing but Zion, Israel, Jezreel. When Jehu had come to Jezreel, Jezebel heard of it, and she put paint on her eyes and adorned her head and looked through a window. So that goes into the whole theme of, you know, of the makeup. So anyway, I'm gonna get right to the point. So in verse 32, and he looked up at the window and said, "Who is on my side? Who?" So 2 or 3 eunuchs looked out at him. Then he said, "Throw her down." So they threw her down, and some of her blood splattered on the wall and on the horses, and trampled her underfoot. So that whole theme go into that whole theme of her blood splattered on the wall. You know, the blood splattered on the wall goes into how the stones, there had to be the wall, because the stones make up a wall, create a wall. So that represents the witnesses, those who witness, the witnesses of God, who will bring down Lucifer. So that whole thing was just showing how the Jezebel spirit is going to be cast down in the end with Lucifer. You know, that's why it had to be 2 or 3 eunuchs, because that goes into men who abstain from sexual immorality. So that's why you see how they said she was painting her face first, because that goes into the whole thing of that seduction. That's why a lot of the nurses go to the club full of makeup. Same thing with the flight attendants, etc. You know? So all of this is very important. So here, when you understand the word Jezebel, is important because, and all Baal mean is Lord anyway. So, you know, Lucifer is the God of this world, and then you have Christ, you know, who is the King of Kings, Lord of Lords. That's why it says in that day, it shall be, saith the Lord, that thou shalt call me Ishi, and shalt no more call me Baali. For I will take the name of Balaam out of her mouth, and they shall be remembered no more their name. And then in verse 22, and the earth shall hear the corn and wine and oil, and they shall hear Jezreel. You see, fulfilling of the kingdom of God, bringing down the Jezebel spirit.